this whole conversation about Donald Trump being in the wrong is completely absurd. Like, America spent tens of billions of taxpayers' dollars, and then to say that they don't have a right to even, like, negotiate on behalf of Ukraine. Because, let's face it, without America's funding, this war wouldn't be even
but that doesn't mean they have the right to sort of give away parts of Ukrainian territory without Ukraine's approval. I mean, Dean, we've given a lot of money to Ukraine. Giving money to a country doesn't mean you sort of gain control over what parts of territory it's allowed to keep or not. I mean, Donald Trump has the right to cut off that support.
When this peace deal is going to protect lives and save lives, let Russia have the land. If Russia can do something better with the land than what Ukraine's doing with it, surely it's what's better.
Do something better? What do you mean better?
Well, surely it's better than blowing it up and dropping bombs
but
on
nobody
it
was blowing it up until Russia invaded and started blowing it up.
Well, I think that there's more facts that aren't necessarily disclosed at this point in history.
If Putin invaded Bristol, would you make the same argument?
I think it would be a great thing if the Russians invaded Britain. It couldn't get much worse than being under Starmer, could it?
Are you serious?
I am being serious. I think that what the world needs is true communism, and all this.
Do you think Putin is a true communist? Do you think you'd have multi-billionaire oligarchs getting rich in corrupt ways if this was true communism?
But real true communism, everyone would have equal opportunities and everyone would have the same standard of life.
And do you think that happens in Russia?
I see the world right now, there is a variation in living classes, and that shouldn't be the case in 2025.
So just to be completely clear, you would rather be ruled by Vladimir Putin than by Keir Starmer?
Yeah, because at least Putin is, if Putin says something, it's true. Whereas under the Labour government, they were voted in on a manifesto that they lied.
You think Vladimir Putin is a man of his word?
I think that Vladimir Putin can be trusted. He's not a man to cross, but
you don't think Vladimir Putin lies? So when Vladimir Putin says we had nothing to do with this poisonings of Sergei Skripal or Alexander Litvinenko, you say, OK, sure, must have been somebody else.
Well, when Theresa May comes out and points the blame at Russia
let's stick with that point. You think that Vladimir Putin speaks the truth and only the truth?
Much more truthful than any previous.
You think Vladimir Putin is more truthful than Keir Starmer?
Oh, without a doubt, honestly, Keir Starmer. When it comes out that Keir Starmer, with the expenses claims,
so you have less of an issue with assassinating political opponents than you do with somebody accepting a free suit.
Well, people need to understand that politics is very different from where it was 50 years ago.
So using radioactive substances on your political opponents, no big deal. But letting Lord Ali buy you some glasses is the worst thing that Keir Starmer could ever do. Is that, Dean, just want to be really clear, that you think murder is sort of somehow acceptable on the part of leaders, but taking donations for their clothes isn't?
Vladimir Putin isn't the only leader in the world or a political figure in the world that's got this stigma attached to it.
Dean, do you realise that you are currently on national radio condoning killing your political opponents?
I'm not condoning loss of life. I don't agree with that.
So just to be really clear, murdering your political opponents, we can agree is a bad thing.
Yes, it is a bad thing.
Okay. But you still think that Keir Starmer is worse than the man that murders his opponents?
Great believer in the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Right, and do you think the needs of the Russian person, Dean? Do you think the needs of ordinary Russians are being a front and centre of Vladimir Putin's mind right now? Do you think the needs of ordinary Russians are behind everything he does? Do you think that's why he and his cronies and his allies have got absolutely unfathomably rich while the Russian economy tanks?
Okay, but what about the British taxpayer?
That's not what I'm asking you, Dean. Dean, that's not what I'm asking you.
Wouldn't they be better off if there was a peace deal?
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, you're claiming that Vladimir Putin is some sort of socialist hero who rules with complete sort of love for the people that he serves. And I wonder what planet you're living on.
His Russian counterparts,
Dean, I honestly wonder what propaganda you've swallowed and how you've got as much room in your body for the amount of Kremlin bilge that you've clearly swallowed.
Well, the way I see it is the Kremlin
is what?
The Kremlin is within its right to do what they see fit in the interests of their...
Right, so we're back to just murdering opponents and complete repressing dissent and closing down the media. You don't really believe in free speech. You don't really believe in political freedom. You don't really believe in not invading other countries because you fancy a bit of their territory. They're within their rights to do all of it.
Okay, but let's look at freedom of speech in the UK. I mean, you get locked up for a Facebook.
Do you think there's more
nowadays?
Freedom of speech? Oh, Dean, you got to... I'm laughing because otherwise I'd cry.
We live in a democracy.
Right, okay.
But if there was democracy, when there was that petition on being signed online, there should have been a general election.
Okay, so if you incite violence on Facebook, you got a problem with it. But if the state comes around and locks you in a gulag... Oh, Dean, I've had enough. I've had enough of your complete Putin apologism. I don't know where you've got it from. I don't know what you've been reading or watching, but it's frankly completely and utterly terrifying. The apparent love and respect you have for a man as brutal, as barbaric, as repressive, as dictatorial, as dishonest as Vladimir Putin. You seem to think that he somehow is better, a better leader than Keir Starmer, or that Russia has more free speech than Britain. And you can't argue with it. I'm sorry, you cannot argue with that because you are just living in a fantasy world if you think that's the case. Reason and fact don't come into it if that is genuinely what you think, I'm afraid. Got to leave it there. Dean, thank you for the call.